There.
Okay, it
You
goes
see
live. Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, well, good morning, and I'd like to welcome the library board and staff to the meeting of the Middlesex County Library for Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. And I'm going to ask for a provision of disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, I move to the minutes of the library board held August the 11th, 2020. Any question or comments? Then I look for a motion to approve the minutes of August 11th, 2020. Approved.
So moved.
Moved by Mary Gay, second by Brad Richards. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Now we'll move to the vision topic, the phased reopening of the ongoing projects. Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to share my screen here. You can find it. Okay. Y'all see my presentation now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So I'll just go through the 6 items that are on the agenda listed here, a bit of a service level update, staffing update, update on the community navigator position, early on renovation project status, and then some information about strategic, and then a retirement announcement that I wanted to bring to your attention. So we'll start off with our service level. So currently we are operating curbside pickup and scheduled computer appointments at 6 of our branches. So the Dorchester, Glencoe, Komoka, Lucan, Park Hill, and Strathroy. As well, we've recently launched some enhanced collection access. So Liz has been in charge of these projects, ways to get collection items to patrons so that they can do a bit of browsing and choosing during the curbside pickup process. So we've got our quick picks out at branches where people can choose items. And then we've also got like grab bags. Bags of collection items for adults and youth and children on certain topics. As well, the children's bags will include an activity. So just trying to enhance people's experience at curbside pickup. We're also providing technology help, so people can book an appointment in the same process that they use to book a computer appointment. They can book time in the branch where staff can provide some instruction on how to use their e-reader or their tablet, whatever device that they're having challenges with. And so we have some rules in place to ensure everyone's safety, but our patrons are really appreciating that extra help because they're relying on our digital collections much more. We have processes in place to help with printing, copying, and scanning. So people can, again, book a computer appointment and do their printing and copying with staff assistance during those time periods, or they can submit documents through the website and then pick up their prints at the curbside pickup hours. So making that process really streamlined. You may have seen on our Facebook page that we have been working on creating buttons for teachers and school staff. You know, teachers and staff are going to be wearing masks all the time when they're with their students. So they wanted to have a picture of themselves on their lapel smiling. So just to reassure their students, especially those in the younger grades. So we've done that for a number of schools, still working on that. Also working on, I know Strathroy is going to be working on buttons for Middlesex Community Living. And then we'll also be getting in touch with some long-term care homes to see if they're interested in buttons, because we have the button makers, we have the supplies. So it's really easy for us to work on that project. We're continuing our virtual programming. As you'll see in a later report, our stats for programs, obviously our quiz nights still continue to be very popular. And we're also sharing quizzes with other library systems who have used the Kahoot system. So that's making, we've got a good schedule coming up of quizzes. And we've had a couple more virtual author visits, as well as wrapping up the summer reading program there in August. And so now we're looking ahead to the fall and winter, setting some guidelines for staff and some expectations about what we want our programming to look like in this next season. And we're still continuing to provide support to patrons at home through our librarian email, so librarian@middlesex.ca. We have our online chat system running, and we're still manning our voicemail, our general voicemail box 6 days a week, so that we're keeping good contact with the public. We're starting to restart some services, so long-term care deposits and our traditional book by mail service. We're communicating with those homes and retirement homes to see whether they want to restart those collections, what they want that to look like. So we're working on getting those resources out. And then book club bags, so people restarting their own personal book clubs. Obviously, with the disclaimer that they follow social distancing rules, so they may be done virtually by the public. And then we'll also be working on restarting our own library book clubs in a virtual setting. And then we've been hearing from a number of service partners, starting to hear more from service partners who use our space. So we're working on ways to accommodate them and their clients. So working with Vanier on the talk-in clinics, they're using a scheduled appointment model. Hearing from, I'm trying to think, CMHA, WSIB, we've heard from them as well. So a few different partners are reaching out. So there's going to be more activity in the branches in the coming weeks. And so then looking ahead to our next phase of service, we have a plan in place to start opening the 6 operating branches for further public access hours beginning the week of October 19th. So the process will be, phasing into that slowly. So starting off with 1 or 2 branches, still keeping the hours, at the level that they're at right now, not expanding too quickly, and opening up our spaces to the public. So we're at a level where we feel we can safely do this, knowing that, we are having challenges in the broader community with the challenges that are happening in London. We have health and safety first and foremost in mind when we start to think about these changes. But I have heard from Dr. Mackey on the emergency control group meeting yesterday, that if things worsened in that broader situation, they would be looking at restrictions at sort of a focused level. So they would be focusing on those sites where transmission is greater. So in the bars and nightclubs and things like that. So we feel like we're in a safe position to start considering that move to a greater level of service and access for the public. One of my concerns over the past few weeks has just been getting that traffic level at our branches up to that point where it makes sense to open. We don't want to be in a position where, because we have to have more staff in the branch in order to do screening and additional cleaning and all of these things. So we have to have a higher staffing level to let the public in. I don't want to be in a position where we have so many staff on and no one in the library using the services. So traffic has been building. Demand for curbside pickup and computers has been growing. And I think by the end of October, we'll be at that point where, it's responsible, fiscally responsible to open and safe to open as well. So that's what we're moving towards. We are also going to be starting curbside pickup at Elsa Craig, Mount Bridges, and Thorndale around that same time. So looking at that October 19th week. And then we'll be adding in Ilderton once the construction project has finished there. So likely sometime in early to mid-November. And then looking at curbside and scheduled appointments, computer appointments there for a while longer. They may be one of the last branches to open fully, just because I need to have a clearer vision, a clearer picture of how the construction project will progress there. So the early on child and family center renovations that we're going to be talking about later, I just need to know how that construction is going to be phased before we fully launch into a plan to open the branch. I wouldn't want to, put a lot of effort and resources into opening for a week and then have to close for a construction wall to be built or something like that. So we just have to take a little bit more time, get more information on what that project looks like, and then proceed with a plan for Strathroy from there. So that's our plans for service level. So along those lines, a staffing update. So August 10th, we had a group of staff, part-time staff return, and then September 8th, a second group return to work. We did issue temporary layoff notices to 39 part-time staff effective September 8th. And so that period of time would have taken us to into end of November, December, I think. But this, the provincial announcement that came out extended that job protected period to January 2nd, 2021. So that gives us a little bit more time to work through this phased reopening without having to move to that formal termination process. So we're working to bring more staff back, whenever it's possible. And so this, the extension to that job protected period gives us a bit more time to accomplish that. So I am working on that next round of staff callbacks to accommodate the increase to service levels later in October. And that will be eight staff will be in this next round of callbacks. Next, we have the community navigator position. So Josh Smith, formerly from the Social Services Department, accepted this position and was a successful candidate and moved into this position just last week, I believe. Time moves so quickly, but that position started September 14th. Josh is based in Strathroy for the time being, but the intent is for this position to support the whole, obviously the whole county, and especially operate out of the comprehensive branches. So again, as we move forward with opening more public access, then there'll be the opportunity for him to meet with community members at different branches, wherever the community need exists. So again, as a reminder, this position has a mandate to support residents who are struggling with homelessness, precarious housing, and all of the challenges that go along with those situations. And that funding is coming to the library through the Social Services Department, through the Community Homelessness Prevention Program. And so I'm working closely with Pauline Andrew from the Social Services Department to support Josh as this position develops. The first priorities will be, making some marketing materials to help promote this position and service and promote it at a virtual level right now. So we're working on, what a Facebook page would look like, how we'll encourage communication, how we can connect people with Josh, connecting to community members in need, and then as well connecting to service partners and organizations. And we'll also be working to establish Josh into our library network. So having regular communication with our comprehensive branch supervisors. And we have a meeting scheduled for next Monday that Josh is going to participate in. He's already familiar with a number of supervisors from his work in the Social Services Department. So, so he's got a great footing and good, base understanding of how the library operates that we can build on. And then, we will be working on increasing services and his presence in branch as our phased reopening progresses. He's already working on a couple cases, a couple situations where he's, working to try to connect with people in need. And so we're really excited to have Josh as part of the team, knowing that in the current pandemic situation, homelessness and housing are, of even greater importance, and many more people may be experiencing challenges. So, so we'll really appreciate his support in this way. As well, we're working on our early on renovations. And again, some of this discussion will tie into the report that was added today later on in the agenda. So we have first is our Ilderton renovation. So the program room addition to the Ilderton branch. This is about 1,100 square feet, features a kitchenette, a family washroom and storage space, as well as office space for early on staff and for service partner use. We anticipate the project to be wrapping up that week of Thanksgiving, so potential occupancy around October 19th. And we are planning for indoor programming to commence sometime in November, which Nadine and her staff are working on, and you'll get another bit of an update on in-person and indoor programming from early on later in the agenda. So the next page, which is a little small on your screen, and I apologize for that, but just a reminder of what the space looks like. So the existing library space is on the right-hand side of the picture, and then the added program room is there on the left. I did a site visit last week on Friday, and Chris Bailey was also there to ensure that our IT needs are met, and the space looks great, and things are moving along well with this nice dry weather that we're getting right now. So we're excited at how the space is developing and excited to move in here in October, November. So then the second renovation project is the Strathcona renovation. So we're renovating existing space. And again, we'll talk more about this on the upcoming report. So just an overview of this project. It will be to enclose that front programming space that exists in the Strathcona Library to create a combined early on child and family center with some children's library space as well. Again, it'll feature a kitchenette, a family washroom, storage, and office space for early on staff and partner use. The construction tender just closed, and so we received the recommended bid on this past Thursday. And again, that'll be coming up in the report. And the intent that the funding had the stipulation that construction was to be completed by December 31st, 2020. And I know that Cindy had heard from the province, that there were discussions about extending that deadline, or understanding that some projects would have been impacted by the pandemic. Everything was slowed down and shut down. So we are confident that as long as the project is moving forward, we have that date in mind, that the funding will be impacted if we don't have occupancy until after December 31st. So that's moving along. And then additional renovation considerations. So that ties into the report that we're going to discuss. So I'll just show the next couple pictures are of the floor plans. So this image shows the what's labeled as the children's reading section and early on in family center on the right section of your screen. So that will be how that front programming space is enclosed. You'll see it's got the servery or a kitchenette, a universal washroom, so that accessible family washroom, and some storage space there, as well as an office right next door to the universal washroom for early on staff. So this will be one programming area for the early on child and family center. And then the next page shows, so this is the back of the library space. So if you can picture where the existing Wright Family Research Room is now, what we'll be doing is creating another programming room extending off of that research room. And the labels on this drawing aren't accurate. They're just put there by the architect. So this will be another early on child and family center programming space that will extend along the back of the library, and so we'll be able to run programming in both areas of the library, which will really enhance our programming capabilities, obviously. So again, more information on this renovation and opportunity for discussion when that report comes up. So then the other focus that we'll have this fall is our strategic plan. So we're coming to the end of our current plan, which ran 2017 to 2020. And so we have Jen Kirkham scheduled to facilitate a visioning exercise with us at the next meeting, whether that is in person or virtually, to be determined. So we'll be able to function either way. Cindy and I have a meeting with Jen the first week of October to do some pre-planning and prep for this visioning session. So we'll be looking at our current plan, identifying accomplishments, and then also looking at what gaps or opportunities exist that we want to address in the next plan. So I'll put together a document that captures that information for you so that you can review it and have that as a baseline for that visioning exercise. So when we're working with Jen, we will need to consider, how long this next plan should be, what length of time. Perhaps it's just a 2-year plan because of the impact of the pandemic, because we don't have a clear and certain vision of when the current restrictions will end. So we don't want to be visioning too far ahead and not be able to accomplish what we need to. And then we'll need to consider how COVID may impact our programming and services as we move forward. And then also think about those things that may have permanently changed because of COVID. What isn't going to go back to the old normal? What's the new normal for the library? What do people want? What do they need from the library? Is our collection purchasing and collection focus permanently changed, shifting more to that digital front? And then thinking about ongoing virtual programming as well. So balancing the in-person with the virtual, is that something that we'll need to continue? So a lot to think about and a lot to discuss at that October meeting. And then finally, a retirement announcement. So Diana Watson, who was the supervisor of the Newbury branch, and previously, a number of years ago, she also was the supervisor at the Glencoe branch, announced her retirement to us. So she chose not to return back to the branch when we did our callbacks after 31 years of service. So you may have seen on Facebook, we had a post on the library Facebook page congratulating Diana, and she got many lovely well wishes. And then I posted it on, I think, one of the Glencoe or Southwest Middlesex Ask pages on Facebook, and again, had some great messages, which we're going to create a bit of a scrapbook of those messages and some other snippets and pictures and things for Diana, because at this point we're not able to give her a retirement party, what we would typically do when a supervisor retires. So I had a visit with her last week, and obviously gave her a card and well wishes from you on behalf of the board and the library, and a number of staff as well sent cards and passed on their well wishes. So I just like to acknowledge her many years of service, and we're very sad to see her go. And so that is the end of my presentation. And so if anyone has any questions about any of those topics, I'll be happy to answer them.
Is there any question? Mary Gay.
Yes, thank you, Jim, for that. Lindsay, it was a very good presentation. I have just a few little questions. And when you talk about moving the early on program to that little spot to the left when you come into Strathroy Library, where will they be moving, or you be moving what's currently there now?
So yes, that's going to be a big part of the work to come. And another consideration why the reopening of Strathroy may be a little slower, because yes, we have to move all of the public computers that are in that area, all of those partial walls that are there existing, those will all come down because the new space. So when you walk in the door of Strathroy Library, right to your left, there's a bit of a nook where the existing basically cinder block wall starts. And so the new wall of the new space will extend from there all the way across. I believe that's the construction line. So yes, it will require a lot of change to that space. So we are still finalizing where the computers will move to, because the children's area of the library will change as well. Items from that area will move to this new space. But some things won't have to move because some will create this new shared space with early on. So we're still finalizing exactly where technology will be moved, where collections will move to. Within this project, we'll also be building some new office space. So extending along the wall where the DVD collection currently is, there will be some additional offices there, 2 for library use and 1 for early on use. So this is a big project. A lot of things need to move to open up those spaces. And so that's what we'll be working on, those plans and firming them up over the next month.
And if I could continue, Mayor Mosley, Jim. So Lindsay, when you talk about extending the early on program to the other side as well, and that's part of the museum space. And what was the other space that's currently used for? I don't have the slide in front of me.
So it extends. Right now it's just collection space. So it's where we have our adult fiction and I believe large print collection. So similar situation there. Yeah.
So that will be moved to the new section once that's built. And what about the museum section? Is that going to change, or do you know yet?
No, there's no change to the museum footprint, no change to the Wright Family Research Room. Okay,
thank you very much.
Brad, you had a question? Go ahead.
Jim, if I could, thanks, Chair. To Lindsay, I wonder, Lindsay, is there any groups that use that area now, or you might plan to that we've notified, or how do we stand on that one?
That use the front programming area?
Yes,
yeah. It's typically been a shared space between the library and the museum. And so we're working on, that program room at the back of the library will continue to be a shared space. So it will be shared between library, museum, and early on. So there'll be opportunities for more groups. I really think that it's going to be a better space for people to book and use because you can close the doors. We'll have a TV in there that you can have play presentations on and have like teleconferencing capabilities in that space. So I think we'll actually be able to accommodate more groups and have a broader level of use in that space.
That's great, thanks.
Lindsay, I've got one question because you did show 2 drawings for Strathroy. One of them was kind of the existing one, and the other is what you're going to be doing there, or behind this, the storage, the museum storage. And one of them had offices. Are those offices, is that part of your next report? Is that the offices we were talking about this morning?
I think so, yes. Yeah.
Okay,
so
I'll wait till you do the other report then.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Ruth. Have to unmute, Ruth.
Okay. Lindsay, the capacity for the early on at Ilderton, is it changing very much with this new layout? Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it going to be about the same?
I think it's going to be about the same in terms of pre-COVID capacity. So right now, there are going to be different restrictions, and Nadine and myself and John Elston were out to library branches over the past couple of weeks, figuring out how many families, what the number of people we can accommodate within the space will look like. So right now, early on, or say, let's think back to February, early on operated out of the basement of the Ilderton Library. And there's a number of small rooms in that facility. So it will be a different layout, a different feel. But we feel, that once we get back to being able to accommodate groups and kind of our traditional level of programming and what early on typically looks like, we'll be able to accommodate similar numbers in groups and programming within that space.
And if I might ask, and you may not be able to answer this, for limiting the number of families for early on, are you looking at some sort of rotating system for families who go, like first come, first serve might not be the best way of handling it. I'm just wondering in terms of capacity because of that being an issue.
Yeah, definitely. And I think some of that might come up when Nadine speaks to her report towards the end
Okay.
of the agenda, just about
All right.
what programming. But yeah, we're definitely, we know that there are pros and cons to every approach, and that we do want to be conscious of trying to give them, the greatest number of people opportunities to attend programming. So we are, we've changed the length of programs so that we can run more sessions. So trying to reach more people that way. Also dealing with families who might cancel at the last minute or not let us know, then you're kind of maybe blacklisted a little to encourage, to open up participation a bit more. Yeah, we're trying to be sensitive to all of those considerations, but I think Nadine will be able to speak to that as well later.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions with respect to this report? If not, then we'll move on to item B, action items. B1, the library financial statement. Lindsay? Oh, sorry, that's Cindy. Pardon me, Cindy, go ahead.
Thanks, and through the chair. I'm presenting the 2019 library financial statements. The financial statements include the auditor's report from KPMG. The auditor's report states that, in their opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects. The statements in front of you include the statement of financial position, the statement of operations, the statement of changes in net financial assets, and the statement of cash flows. This year, as a result of COVID-19, you'll see note 10, subsequent event, was added. At the time of completing the financial statement, an estimate of the financial effect could not be determined. However, at the same time, the library did close all library branches from March 16th, 2020, put in place mandatory working from home for those able to do so, and as we just heard from Lindsay, temporary layoffs. So at this time, I'm recommending that the financial report be approved, and as shown in note 3, the surplus of the $160,034 be applied towards the 2020 library operating costs. And of course, happy to answer any questions.
Is there any questions with respect to that report? Okay, there is a recommendation. I look for a mover and seconder then, if we agree. Moved by Warden Kathy Burkhardt Jessup and seconded by, was that you, Brad? Yes, Brad Richards. Any further comments or questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now we'll move to item number B2, which is new, and it's with respect to the Strathroy Library renovations. Lindsay, you want to take us through this, please? You're on mute, Lindsay.
Sorry about that. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will just share the report. I'm not going to obviously read it word for word, but I'll share it so that.
Just a question before you start. If anybody's got any questions, because it is a fairly long report and a lot of detail, if we could just wait till Lindsay's done, then we'll ask all the questions at once. Thank you. Oh, sorry,
Jim, I just have to go for a second to do a phone call, and I'll be back. And Mary Gay, I sent you a chat message there about a meeting that we need to have. Other than that, I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay, be looking forward to seeing you. Go ahead, Lindsay. Great.
So I'll just put the report up here, and then I can scroll through it if there's any questions specifically on any of the pages. I apologize that we weren't able to get this report to you sooner, that this did just come out this morning. The pandemic did cause a bit of delay in the process for this renovation project. And Cindy and I saw the preferred bid, as I mentioned, we saw it this past Thursday. And so that, gave us the full picture of what this project looks like. And so we needed to bring all of this information to you today so that the project can proceed with that goal of completion by December 31st, 2020. So this report provides an update on the status of the Early On Child and Family Center renovation. And this renovation is really a key element to the broader revisioning of the Strathroy Library that we have had a number of discussions on together as a group. So as a reminder, as it notes in the report, the county received provincial capital funds to complete this project, $525,000. And then the library board has committed $50,000 to support changes to the library specific space. So that's in the current 2020 capital budget for the library. So we have this broader vision for the Strathroy Library to really become this family-friendly, welcoming space. And creating this early on child and family center will help bring this vision to life. So if you can, we've talked a bit about what this renovation will look like. What we want to create is, when you're walking past the library, the beautiful windows and that whole programming space, we want you to be able to look in and see, children playing, reading, exploring different areas of the space, and, having that family-friendly atmosphere there in that programming space right now, or say we go back to February when it was used for programming. This space is a little awkward. We're not maximizing our use of this space. Programs run here sometimes, but not every day. The space can look a little empty. And so this is really prime real estate, and that's how we've been selling it and describing it. And a space that sets the tone and creates that first impression for visitors. And so we want to improve that impression and bring new life back to this space. That's what's going to happen with this early on child and family center renovation. That's the vision for the space. It'll include all of the elements that I already mentioned, the servery and the office space and the washroom. And as well as I mentioned, the renovation will create that second early on programming space at the back of the library. So this will allow us to offer a wider variety of early on programs. Something that early on does in other spaces is, offers one program for children to keep them busy and doing an activity while the parents participate in a training session. It might be about parenting skills. It might be some sort of counseling opportunity. Having those two spaces within one early on child and family center is going to give us that opportunity to offer that programming to the community. And so we're excited about that opportunity. As well, this second space ties into those COVID-19 considerations that we discussed. So having that additional space to be able to program for more people. That's what having those two spaces is going to allow. So this is the atmosphere and the experience that we want to create in Strathroy. And as a group, we've had a number of conversations about how the space and the number of services and the variety of services and partners that are present in the Strathroy Library, all of this creates some challenges and some pressure points. And so these challenges and pressure points tell us that we really can't do everything all at once in our existing space. And so what we've done is look for opportunities to make changes and relieve some of this pressure. And that's what we want to talk about today. So we're coming to you today to discuss one strategy that we feel will have a positive impact on the library in helping to create that this new re-envisioned space. So what we're coming to you today with is a recommendation that we relocate social services staff and the delivery of their services out of the Strathroy Library space. And I'll go into what our options and plans are for that. So with this goal in mind of relocating social services, we've been working on a couple of different options for relocation. So option A, we've been working with Strathroy Caradoc on this early on renovation for a couple of years now. And so through this process, they came to us with the opportunity to potentially use some space in the Strathroy Caradoc Town Hall. So the idea was that the lower level of Strathroy Town Hall would be redeveloped to provide office space and service space for library admin staff to use. So the option A would be developing this space with Strathroy Caradoc, moving existing staff and services out of the library administration building where I am now, and then social services would move into this building and operate and be its sole occupant. So that's option A for discussion. So we went through this exercise with Strathroy Caradoc and went through the process of working out this plan and putting it out to tender. including that potential renovation to the town hall space. At the same time, you know, we have been considering other options. We've really been considering multiple options for, you know, as long as we've been having this discussion, probably 4 or 5 years, about another option for social services. So we're at that point where we feel like option B, which I'll describe to you, is our best course of action, and we'll explain why. So option B would be using our existing space. So working within the footprint that we have now, the space that we lease now. So option B would be social services staff would move into the library admin building, and we would work to reconfigure a few things so that both library staff and social services staff could operate out of this space. You know, it's been an interesting process, and both options have positives and negatives about them. But we really feel at this point in time, we don't feel like it's the best course of action to add space to our inventory, take on additional lease costs, and commit more funds to leasing a separate additional space. That's where we're at right now. Taking into consideration COVID-19, obviously, and the impact that it has had on our services, the way both the library and social services operate, you know, where staff exist, where they're going to be working in the future months, we are confident that we can work with our existing space and not incur those extra ongoing lease costs at this time. So looking at those two options, option A and B, we feel that option B is our most fiscally responsible option and you know, most responsible way of using our existing space. So just to recap this report, you know, there are 2 elements to the report. One is the Early On Child and Family Center. This project is good to go. It's, you know, we're incredibly excited about it, and you know, we've been working so well with Strathcona Caradoc on this vision for the space, and we think it's going to mean great things for the community. Page 3 of the report also goes into how this renovation will adjust square footage in the facility. So I'll scroll down to that actually. So if you look at the charts, we have our current square footage, what is dedicated library space versus what is dedicated museum space, and then the space that we currently share between those 2 entities. And then our projections of what that space will look like in 2021. So the amount of shared space will actually increase because we'll be sharing the accessible washroom. We'll be sharing that programming room amongst every operator in that facility. And so overall, our lease costs for the library board will actually decrease a little. So going down from the second chart, you can see there, our lease cost in 2020 was $124,666. That would go down to $123,324. So not a huge amount, but not, you know, we're not adding to costs by adding this service in, which I think really speaks to the success of this project. And then the last paragraph on this page gives us a rough estimate of what the early on lease costs might be for this space. So again, that could offset the lease costs for the library board. So we would use some operational early on funding to support those lease costs. So overall, this project will not result in operating pressures for the county. So that's definitely a positive for this project. So that's the first element of this report. And then the second element of the report is that relocation of social services staff and service to help relieve that pressure on library space. So again, we are recommending that we proceed with this shared space model using our existing library administration building and sharing that space between library admin staff and social services staff. And you'll see on page 4 that we have a recommendation along those lines. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. And I'll stop sharing.
Hey, are there any questions with respect to this report? Might have to shout out because I only got 4 photos up here. Is
I
there
can
any
stop
que-
sharing and then you can maybe see better. Sorry. There we go.
Okay, there. Are there any questions with this, respect to this? Brad?
Thanks, Jim. Just a question, Lindsay, the social services then, like, would they have like their own entrance in coming in, or how would that work there compared to what it is now?
So what we've worked out through the chair, myself and Cindy, we have a few different floor plans that we've been working on. But basically, it would mean, you know, reconfiguring that reception area. We have an existing reception area with a, you know, a glass window that opens. So it would be about wayfinding and creating different paths that clients, social service clients, would be able to travel down versus what space would be for library use. So we would work that would be our goal, would be to kind of create those 2 separate spaces. As well, the project includes the potential to add a family washroom or an accessible washroom, a washroom dedicated to visitors. So again, that would help create those 2 separate service areas so that there isn't confusion or overlap. We know we need to avoid that. So we've got strategies that we're going to work on.
Okay. Is any Ruth?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I think it's a well thought out option. Moving forward, I think this is the way to go. Yeah.
Joanne, you had a question?
If I could just so I'm straight on all of this, because I know last night at our meeting we passed a motion to accept an RFP to do the basement HV for the town hall, which was over $66,000. So whether or not we need to do that or not, has this particular project been brought up to the people you're talking to at Strathcona Renovations, just so I know that, you know, I'm not sure I want to spend $66,000 if we don't need to at this point.
I guess if you want to, I'll jump in for a second, and through the chair to Councillor. We have had discussions with 2 of the staff at Strathcona Renovations in regards to some of the options that we're kind of looking at. So we did ask to look into the 3 spaces, get cost estimates, what that would look like. I think we really took a long, deep retroflect, probably in the last week, Lindsay and I, around our space and what we would need, especially around COVID-19 and getting involved in additional lease space. So you're right, after this meeting, once the board decides what direction to go to, we're gonna have to go back to your staff and have a conversation to say, this is the direction that we're gonna go. And as for if you're gonna do that additional work, you're correct, maybe you won't do that work if we're not gonna go into there. So we will have to have that discussion with your staff.
Any other questions? Okay, good. Then I guess there is a screen. There is a requested motion here with respect to moving forward with this, and it's kind of our plan B, right, Lindsay?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion? Support? Ruth does. Moved by Ruth, seconded by Warden Kathy Burkhardt. Justin, any further comments with that? All in favor? Great, that's carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to, oh, where'd I go? There, okay, sorry. That invisible man hit the wrong button here. But I want to move through to, we'll go to the correspondence and information items. There's 4 or 5 I'm going to have people speak to, but if you've got any questions with them before we get to those items, if you could just let me know and I'll get any kind of discussion on it. The first one is library info, September 22nd to for systems e-resource 2020 to 2019. The usage. Next is our accounts payable to September 9th, 2020, totaling $50,162.43. Next is our virtual programming participation, September 22nd. Programming participation for August 2020. Next is C4, the library information, September 22nd, social media activity to August 2020. Next is our item C5, library information, September 22nd, systems curbside pickup and computer appointments, 2020. I'll just comment, I think, like from what I've seen, that's working pretty well for people able to get their requested reading material. Next is item C6, library information, September 22nd, newsletter articles to August 2020. Next is our C5, which is library info, September 22nd, camp streaming summer learning program 2020. Lindsay, you want to comment on this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to reiterate what is in the report. Incredibly successful program. I think we had, a goal in mind of having 500 children register, and that would be successful. And we had over 561 children who initially registered. Like Shauna said in her report, difficult to track participation entirely over the program, but really great participation. An amazing collaboration between library staff and early on. It was a really successful project. There was the Teen Zone program as well. Only 17 participated, but that's almost on par with what we get in terms of teen participation in in-person summer programming over the past few years. So they are a difficult group to reach. But we were really happy with how both programs went, and really a testament to staff's hard work on how quickly they could pivot from planning for in-person programs based on our really successful summer reading program from 2019 and 2018, changing it into a virtual program and reaching this number of participation. We're just really happy with the results.
Thank you. Any questions on that report? Okay, if not, then we'll move to the item C8, which is library information, September 22nd, adult summer reading. Liz, you've got a comment on this, I believe.
Sure. So this is our first time running a summer reading program that's actually targeted to adults. So we're really excited to have this opportunity, and we had really great feedback. One of the things we've heard most from participants is that they tried authors and genres they would never try before. And if you mentioned that genres like romance and Western, they kind of looked down on a little, but this was an opportunity to explore new authors, and they had a really great response with that. They've also submitted book reviews over the summer, so we'll be sharing those on Facebook in the next couple of weeks to share what they enjoyed, what they recommend.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to item C9, which is library information, September 22nd, OLA Hoopla newsletter. We'll move to item C10, library info, September 22nd, early on update, summer 2020. Nadine, you had a comment on this?
This was with regards to the community impact stories.
C10, yes.
Okay. Is that correct, Lindsay? Sorry,
Sorry, the first one is the early on, the program reopening update, and then the next one is the family impact.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, so currently we are very busily involved in trying to reopen our outdoor programs. So we are 1 week into programs. Last week we launched with 4 locations, Glencoe, Ilderton, Thorndale, and I'm missing one, Thorndale, Ilderton, Glencoe, and Strathroy. So we scheduled 2 programs per location, and in the end we just had to cancel 1 in Glencoe, but in total we had 71 participants. This week we have 75 registered with a few last minute registrations I saw come in this morning. We're trying to fill the capacity. So right now, as Ruth said, it's with a mandate from the ministry is to do registration only, which is different for families. They're accustomed to drop in. So right now we're just trialing the use of Eventbrite. We open up registration on Monday mornings, and then we close Thursdays at 4 p.m. And then we open it up by email after that if we have any extra spaces. It is first come, first serve. As Ruth had mentioned, it does have its limitations. Right now we're trialing that particular approach. It is an approach that's being used by other communities as well, but we are going to look at the pros and cons of that approach and if there are any other methods that we could be utilizing to ensure that we're being equitable across the county. So we are in the midst. So currently right now there's a program running in Thorndale. Open up registration for week 3. Starting tomorrow, we have our first of 4 baby time programs. So we have one in Lucan, one in Ilderton, and one in Strathroy. We have added an additional one in Glencoe. All of those programs are full, so that's great. We weren't sure that that would be a hit for families, for parents and caregivers with babies, but we tried it and we were surprised to see that all of those programs filled up. In addition, again, just based on demand, we have had a few emails from people asking about the Kamoka, Delaware area. So as of this morning, I opened up a new program in Kamoka. It is different, as I mentioned, a lot of different changes for families, one being the drop-in, no drop-in registration only. Other changes, as mentioned in the report, is having designated family spaces, designated material bins, and no sharing materials, ensuring distancing between children and families during program, screening prior to attendance, the 1-hour program length that Lindsay had mentioned earlier, as opposed to the normal 2 to 2.5 hours, doing more structured activities as opposed to free play. But all in all, like families so far, we've had a few comments, some that have expressed that they're not interested as a result of the changes, but for the most part, most people are quite open and understanding of the expectations. The other change that's different is normally we would only have 1 staff assigned to our programs, but because of the added health and safety requirements and the need for screening and the need for helping to encourage distancing during programming, we are running with 2 staff per program. So as we are moving forward with our planning for indoor programming, that's certainly something that we're having to consider. With that said, we just recently had an announcement around some additional funding to help support the safe reopening of early on. So Lindsay and I have a meeting next week to talk about what that might look like in terms of PPE and other requirements, in addition to potentially additional staff to help us safely reopen. Trying to think what else. So in addition to those outdoor programs, and that's going to run for 4 weeks, we're going to do an assessment after the 4 weeks to see what worked, what didn't work, and what lessons we can apply to the indoor programs. So still in the planning stages around indoor programs and what type, where we want to start and when, how often. So that hopefully Lindsay and I will be able to firm up a plan next week. And then as well, we're just continuing to offer a variety of virtual programs, and we will continue to do so via Zoom and pre-recorded videos, because the reality is not all families will want to attend. They might want that continued opportunity to see their early on friends and their facilitators virtually as opposed to in person. Lastly, we've been working, there's a lot of procedures, a lot of new procedures that have been developed. Working closely with Lindsay and having John Elston as a support has been really great. So effective yesterday, we made a few more changes to our health and safety procedures and finalized a protocol around if there is a confirmed or a suspected case in terms of COVID. So staff, I just keep educating and updating them as we move along with any procedures. And I would say all in all, they have been very responsive and very adaptable, and are extremely excited to be back and seeing families face to face.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions with that? Seeing none, we'll move on to item C11, which is library information, September 22nd, early on family impact stories. You've got a comment on that as well, Nadine?
Been muted. Okay. Yeah, no,
Yes.
that was, somebody didn't want me to speak. She speaks too fast.
No, take your time.
Yeah, that was a new project. It's always been a vision of mine. It's another, this sort of impact story, something that we've considered for another project that's currently on hold as a result of COVID. But yeah, no, we decided to put it out there to families to submit an impact story. So, I mean, obviously the pandemic has been challenging personally for families, professionally for staff. They really stepped up to the plate and were very creative and resourceful in offering a variety of virtual programs. So we had been receiving a lot of different just emails and whatnot from families saying how thankful they were. So we thought we would try this family impact story and approach and just encourage families to submit, you know, a little story about what kind of impact, whether it was small or large, the virtual programs had on them during the pandemic. So included in the report are 16 different stories that were submitted from families, and they were submitted from families from across the county. And if you haven't had a chance to review them, I would suggest you do. They were, you know, very heartwarming, and I think for the team, it was nice to be able to hear what kind of impact they had because it was so different for them in terms of the approach of reaching families.
The question with that. Kathy.
I just wanted to say that I think this was awesome idea, Nadine. And yes, if you haven't read them, read them. And at least there's no music playing like the last video shared with us. But I just think, you know, in this time when we're trying to engage in different ways, that these impact stories will only attract other people. I know, I think a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, but I've had a number of comments made to me, oh, I didn't even know this program was out there. And so now they're engaging virtually. So you're reaching that different audience, but certainly these impact stories, I think, will only benefit to gain traction and, you know, either virtually or when we can actually, you know, come back as we're starting to make that plan. I just think it's just positive. So congratulations for doing that. I think it was awesome.
Thanks, Kathy.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Now we'll deal with item number 12, which is C12 library information, September 20th, early on open space promotional flyer.
That must be mine as well. I'm sorry, I don't have the agenda in front of me. That must be our outdoor program promotional flyer, just highlighting the 4 different programs that we have running in the 4 different locations. And as I mentioned, we have an additional flyer for our baby time programs. Currently, there are 4, as well as an additional outdoor program in Komoka that'll be on October 5th that we opened up today.
Yeah, don't kid yourself. Most of these are about you. So we'll go. The next one is item number 13, which is C13 library information, September 22nd, early on outdoor program online for families. Okay. And item number 14, is there any questions with any of these yet? Okay, then item C14 is library information, September 22nd, statement of revenues and expenses. Any questions on that? Okay. Then we'll move on to, I'd look for a motion that item C1 library through to C14 library be received for information. Moved by Brad, seconded by Mary Gay. Further comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we'll deal with any inquiries. Okay, our next meeting, new business. The next meeting date is 10:30, October 27th. We don't know whether it will be in person or the way we're doing it now. It just depends. And at that point, just a question then, because we're going to have a strategic planning at that time. Are we having that earlier or after, or you got to wait to sort all that out?
I think it will probably take the place of the visioning portion. So
okay, yep.
I don't think we would want to do more than an hour as an activity. So I think we can accommodate it within the normal meeting
Library
schedule.
board meeting. Okay, that's good. Yep. Thank you. So it's got the 3 dates up to December 15th. If there's no other questions or comments, then I look for first and second reading of a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Middlesex County Library Board for September 22nd. Moved by Ruth, seconded by Mary Gay. All in favor? It's carried. Now I look for a third and final reading of the confirmatory bylaw be given. Moved by Brad, seconded by Warden Kathy Burkhardt Jessup. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, that's it then, I guess, eh? So then I look for a motion to adjourn. Brad, seconded by Ruth. Further comments on that? Or just adjourned? Favor? Carried. Thank you.